Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so Skip, Shannon, let's get to it.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. How are you guys doing today?
I'm doing great, Jenny. Somebody is trying to sabotage me because my nose did not come through, but it's okay. It's quite all right.
Well, you don't usually have any notes because you never do much research anyway. So how is today any different from yesterday and the day before?
All I know is it feels very sabotagey by someone.
Well, then you got something in common
Shannon.
with Bill Belichick.
I'm sure we'll address it later on in the show. Shannon, I wish you all the luck in the world. This might be hard for you, but we are going to start with everything taking place in Green Bay because Brett Favre believes Aaron Rodgers will end up finishing his career outside of Green Bay. Favre said the Packers burned the bridge to Rodgers when they traded up to draft quarterback Jordan Love in the first round. So, Shannon, is Favre right about all of this?
Well, Skip, we talked about this on Monday. Actually, we talked about it on Friday because the draft was Thursday night. And when they traded up, I said they have Aaron Rodgers' undivided attention because he was in a very similar situation. They drafted him. Now, he fell into their laps when they had Brett Favre on the roster. And so he understands. And he's looking at it kind of like Brett looked at it. Brett looked at when they drafted Aaron Rodgers. How does a quarterback help us win immediately? That's for the future. So in other words, you're telling me you feel better going forward in the future with him than you do me. Aaron Rodgers looks at it the very same way, Skip. He's like, oh, okay, I see how y'all guys doing it. And, they gave you this. And Bob McGuinn talked about it yesterday, Skip. In his article, he said it was about the running game. Nah, Skip, this ain't about no running game. You could have anybody. You could have anything other than a wide receiver or tight end or replacing the offensive lineman that they lost to the Chargers. Aaron Rodgers was going to be viewed as a slight. And especially, he's looking at like, all I have is Devontae Adams, really. And you've really never given me a first-round draft pick at the receiver position. And so he's looking at it like, man. And Skip, this is why I always tell people that's close to me, family members, when you say something, what do people, Skip, even though Brett says, yeah, I spoke to him, I'm not going to get into depth about what we talked about. This is just my gut feeling. What is everybody assuming first thing Thursday morning? Who said everything Brett Favre is regurgitating? One, Aaron Rodgers. Now, they made a situation, they talk about Aaron Rodgers and how quirky he is and his mannerism. Oh, it's about to get real uncomfortable, Skip. As T.O. would say, get your popcorn ready. Skip, get your popcorn ready because it's about to get real bumpy over the next 2 years. And I don't believe they can do anything with Aaron for the first 2 years because that contract kind of makes him untradeable and very uncuttable. But after 2 years, it becomes palatable for them to move on in a different direction. And if they do decide to move in a different direction, Skip, we just saw Tom Brady pack his bag and head south. We saw Joe Montana do it. We saw Emmitt Smith do it. We saw Jerry Rice do it. So he will not be the first great player if he wants to continue playing. And Skip, you remember about right after the season, he says, I'm on the 18th fairway or something like the 18th green or something like that. All of a sudden, Skip, he's playing backwards. Aaron Rodgers is going to play until his 40s because he wants to do exactly what Tom Brady did. He wants to show them that wanted to move in a different direction without him. I can still play, and I can play at a high level. The only difference between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, it would not shock me that Aaron stayed somewhere very close so he could see the Packers on a regular occurrence. He wants to stick it to them because he feels slighted because of what they did. And so I'm not surprised he feels this way. I've always said this, Skip. I believe the quarterbacks, I know this to be true, have the biggest egos. They do the best job of hiding it until they feel very, very threatened, and then they can't control it anymore.
Okay, my turn. First of all, I have to comment on what's happening right before our very eyes, my widening eyes. Wait a second. Brett Favre is speaking to and speaking for Aaron Rodgers? Look, I know we're all going through things we've never been through in our lives. Everything seems upside down. I know in our household where I'm speaking from right now, I can't believe I'm doing Undisputed from up here in my loft at the house in which Ernestine and Hazel and I share. And yet, it makes everything out in the world feel wrong. It's everything's upside down. Day is night, night is day. And all of a sudden, Brett Favre, who had no use for Aaron Rodgers, those two reportedly didn't speak to each other for years. All of a sudden, not only have they mended fences and made peace, but wait a second. Now, Brett Favre is Aaron's big brother. He's become his confidant. He's become his PR director and spokesman. Well, wait. No, I can't wrap my mind around this. And to your point, you're right. He kept indicating to Rich Eisen in the interview, I did speak to Aaron about this. I don't want to speak for him, but I'll just tell you this much. Bam, 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 bam. And you're like, yeah, I think he's spilling all the beans all over the airwaves. Yeah. And I think we're talking about it because Brett Favre spoke for Aaron Rodgers. The bridge is burned. He wants out. Don't be surprised if now he wants to go somewhere else. Well, again, none of this is shocking to me, but here's the ultimate irony of this and the reality of it. In the end, Shannon, I still think Brett has now lost all objectivity on Aaron because they're like become brothers from another mother. Mm-hmm. And now Brett doesn't see the forest for the trees. Again, yes, the bridge is burned to the ground, but he's putting it in a context of Green Bay, you just screwed up. You just made a huge mistake. You just stepped in it, Packers. You blew this one. No, Brett, you don't get it. You're looking at it upside down. They intended to burn the bridge to the ground. They set it on fire. They're not going to rush to put it out. No, they're pouring gasoline on the fire under the bridge as it burns to the ground. Because we talked about this. We talked about the Bob McGinn article. Matt LaFleur, after 1 year with Aaron Rodgers, is sick and tired of his act, his diva act, all that goes with Aaron Rodgers, all the blame deflecting, finger pointing, all the passive aggressive behavior via interviews and social media. They're sick and tired of it. Gutekunst, the fairly new GM, and LaFleur, the 1 year head coach. And Shannon, this was their design. This is what they wanted to happen. And they are going to slowly push Aaron Rodgers away by doing one of two things. In order, they drafted A.J. Dillon in the second round, and there was a report in the Milwaukee Sentinel Journal Sentinel, that said that they want to now hammer the rock next year. They want A.J. Dillon, who was high carries. He was averaging around 300 carries a year at Boston College. 250 pounds, ran 4.5 at the combine, Derrick Henry-esque. They're going to take the ball out of Aaron's hands the next year or two and try to run it the way the Tennessee Titans did down the stretch as they made their big playoff splash last year. And then, number two, they want to slowly but surely replace Aaron Rodgers with the kid they took late in the first round, traded up to take, Jordan Love. So again, Brett's acting like, you guys blew this. No, they're right on schedule. And again, if they're wrong about Jordan Love, then they're dead wrong. They better be as right about Jordan Love as Ted Thompson was about Aaron Rodgers. Yes, if they're right about that, then bully for them. But the bridge was burned by the Packers on purpose, intentionally. Brett Favre, you don't get it.
Skip, if they're wrong about this, they're about to have a gap like they had between Bart Starr and Brett Favre. That's what's going to happen. It's almost like a Dan Marino situation. When he retired in 2000, it wasn't until 2020 they finally think they have his adequate replacement. And they've had how many different quarterbacks in Miami? Skip, and we're going to talk about this a little later. There's a very similar situation that's going on north. That's in the Eagles. That's in a very, very similar situation because of what transpired. Now, we get that Aaron Rodgers is, 36, 37 years of age. Carson Wentz is only 27 years of age. Skip, I think the thing is for Aaron Rodgers now is that he realized, and even Brett, Skip, time you realize that some things that you did in the past you could have handled differently, and the outcome might have been a little differently. You might have had a better relationship because, Skip, when you're in this game, Skip, you hope to have you leave with two things, the most important, money and memories. You want a lot of both. And you don't really want bad memories. You want the memories to be enjoyable. I don't want to look back and like, man, I didn't give Aaron Rodgers the time of day in the meeting room. I didn't do anything I could to help him. Again, not to get too far off subject, Skip, but this is LeBron and Jordan. Remember, LeBron says, I can understand what he was going through. Who can understand better what Aaron Rodgers is going through than Brett Favre, who had it happen to him 12, 13 years ago, Skip? Who understands that any better than Brett Favre? No one. And so he's like you said, he's become Aaron Rodgers' official mouthpiece. So in other words, Aaron doesn't do any talking. Man, that's Brett. I didn't say that. Brett's talking for himself. He told you. Yeah, that was just his gut. Skip, everybody knows. Skip, when you get upset, you vent to people. And people are like, yeah, I talked to him. Yeah, he was upset, but, that's just me. This is what I gathered from it. You gathered from it because that's what he told you. Skip, the Packers really put themselves in a pickle, and maybe you're right. Maybe they wanted to be here all along. But, Skip, sometimes, and I've seen this actually happen before, when players are really, really good, and they're like, what's the way I want to say, they call them, the D word. When a team gets an opportunity to get you up out of there, they swing the hammer. A prime example is Antonio Brown, Skip. As soon, because he was not, how long do you think, Skip, AB had been missing practice and cutting out on meetings and being what he was being? But as soon as they got the opportunity and they felt, Mike Tomlin always says, we'll tolerate you until we can replace you. And boom. And now they believe they can replace Aaron Rodgers. I give it 2 years, Skip. I'm going to say 2 years. I don't see it going past 2020. The 2022 season, I said there's more than an 85% chance Aaron Rodgers is playing for someone else if he decides to continue to play.
You could be right about 2 years. But again, Brett Favre is saying, you guys, you better be ready. He's going to want out. No, Brett. They're daring Aaron to demand a trade. That's the only way out of this. They obviously can't cut Aaron. They've given him way, way too much money to just cut him because the dead money on the cap would be lethal to the Packers. But if they could get Aaron to the point where he demanded a trade and they had a desperate trade partner for Aaron Rodgers at 37 years of age, maybe even at 36, maybe going to next year, then I believe the Packers would do that. I don't know if they'd want to cut bait just yet before they see what they have in Jordan Love, obviously, at least in some form of training camp and maybe in some game action next year. But the point is, they are daring Aaron to demand a trade because I think that's their ultimate end game. And I do agree with you. Brett is the one man who can understand that, appreciate it, and relate to it. But in the end, remember, this situation is so different than what Brett originally went through. Back to the Bob McGinn article, and for those who don't know, Bob McGinn covered the Packers for 38 years. He is the ultimate authority on all things Green Bay. He knows where the bodies are buried. And his point is that if you look back to, let's just take the 2 years leading up to Aaron Rodgers being drafted by the Packers, Bob McGinn always gives a letter grade. He's a harsh grader, but he gives the quarterback a letter grade off each full season, including the playoffs. He had given Brett Favre B+, B+, the 2 years leading up to that draft. Aaron Rodgers, these last, just take 2 years, C+, C+, and called those 2 seasons by Aaron pedestrian. I've told you that just statistically, Aaron has declined steadily over the last 3 years. The stats just scream he's in free fall as an aging quarterback. Had his lowest QBR of his career this past year. Ironically, they're going 13-3 in the process. They're winning games that you say, how did they do that? I don't know. And it seemed like Aaron Jones was more of the MVP than Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron also plummeted last year to 21st in completion percentage. So he wasn't putting up the numbers that a winning quarterback usually would put up. But you can't argue with, they got to the NFC Championship game. But inside the Packers, they're saying, no, we don't love what we're seeing and where it's heading, and we have to position ourselves to transition quickly to Jordan Love. C+, C+, 2 pedestrian seasons. So now my final point to you, Shannon Sharp, is you dared to broach the subject again of LeBron could relate to Michael Jordan cradling that first NBA championship trophy and crying.
Yes.
And I just can't let you get away with that again because it's so wrong. LeBron has no idea what Michael Jordan was feeling at that moment because LeBron can't relate. Michael Jordan had to fight through the bad boy Pistons, the baddest boys on defense ever there was. There were no rules except football rules. And Michael Jordan, in successive years, won against the Pistons 1 playoff game, 2, 3, and then he swept them with 4 playoff wins to get to Magic's Lakers to win his first championship. And to me, that struggle was so different than a LeBron struggle in which he had gotten wiped out by the Spurs in a sweep finals. And then he had melted down like no superstar ever in his other finals against the Dallas Mavericks. He had, quote unquote, quit, said his owner, against the Boston Celtics. And he had disappeared against the Orlando Magic when we all thought he was going to play Kobe in the finals. Like, those are epic fails. And Michael had just an epic struggle. So I just can't let you get away with that. No, LeBron couldn't relate. But yes, Brett could relate.
Skip, I'll put it to you like this, Skip. You go to church and you read the Bible. The Bible speaks of famine. The Bible speaks of leprosy, how locusts invaded and just took away everything. Now, the people that suffer from leprosy, are you saying they don't know the struggle of the people that suffer from famine? If there's death? See, what you're trying to do, all I'm saying is, he went through something, okay? He had to get through the bad boy Pistons. LeBron had to overcome the Big Three Celtics. He had to overcome the 2011 finals and what happened. Yes, Skip, all I'm saying is that, yes, they're different players and their paths of how they ultimately won the title might be different. But what he's feeling, having to overcome all of that, is very similar. That's all he said. He didn't say, well, Mike took Michael 7, he took me 7. And I did this and he did that. All he's saying, I know what Michael overcame, seeing Michael and watching this firsthand, seeing it. I can understand what he's feeling because I felt the very same thing having to overcome. Now, back on topic, Skip Bayless. You always try to do that. See, here's the thing, Skip. If we measure our greatest by their greatest seasons, they'll never get another A again. Because if you measure Patrick Mahomes by 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, so if he doesn't do that again, he's never able to get an A. Because of what Bob McGinn, I believe, is doing, if you measure Aaron Rodgers by 45-6, yeah, you're right, he's going to get a C+. Just like if you measure Tom Brady by 50-8, yep, he looks terrible. But I don't do it like that, Skip. And there's a difference is, the reporters, and I'm not saying Bob McGinn is guilty of this, but the reporters like Brett Favre a lot more than they like Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers makes it very easy for you not to like him. And that's okay. I don't got no problem with that. You do how you do long as you get the job done. You treat me good, you can treat everybody else how you treat them. But I'm going to address you if you treat me a certain type of way. But, Skip, you know how Aaron is. Aaron makes no apology for sometimes his condescending. He's very condescending. He's very dismissive. And sometimes that rubs people the wrong way. That's going to rub most people the wrong way. People that support Aaron and are close to Aaron, they don't have a problem with it. But I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. He's been that way. And so I think the Packers let's go ahead and take the upper hand back. Because for me, Skip, they could have been total pricks about the whole thing. They're like, nah, we're not going to extend you like they did Tom Brady and take a quarterback, which would have exacerbated, which would have sped up the process. I'm not so sure Aaron would have requested a trade today or yesterday or the day before had they done that.
Okay, but the difference in Brett Favre at that point in his career when they drafted Aaron Rodgers was I thought he was still playing at a very high level, and he believed he had a whole lot left in his tank, and he was right because he had one of his greatest years, obviously, a couple of years later at Minnesota, in which we was, 33 touchdowns to 6 interceptions, took them all the way to overtime at the NFC Championship game, the Bounty Bowl, yeah. And the point is, he was extraordinary in that year, had the greatest 40-year-old season we'd ever seen until we got to Tom Brady. And he was still on the rise to me. And remember, they didn't trade up for Aaron Rodgers. They just sat there at 24 and thought,
right,
gee, nobody's going to take him. He might have gone first in the draft, first overall. They took Alex Smith in San Francisco. Right. And he just is falling. Well, okay, we'll take him at 24. These guys had a master plan in place in which they said, if Jordan Love starts to fall, we are going to go up there. We're trading up to snatch him. We want Jordan Love. It felt like it was their game plan going in to find a way to get Jordan Love. And they're basically telling Aaron, no, we don't think you have that much left. So again, I think he's bound to land somewhere else. There'll be a big trade of him going somewhere else. And then we'll see if he can repeat what Brett Favre did at age 40 and see if he can be that guy late in his career once he leaves Green Bay.
Skip, I think the biggest difference between Aaron and Brett, Skip, Brett had retired. Remember? Brett, for the previous 3 seasons, says he was retiring. And he said he had retired. Okay, they're getting Aaron Rodgers ready to go. Then Brett comes and says, no, I want to play. I want my job back. Well, it's too late. Aaron has yet to say, I'm retired, go take off, and then once we're about to head to training camp, says, I want my job back. Skip, you remember, that's ultimately what happened. And one of the reasons they drafted Aaron Rodgers was because they got tired of every offseason at the start, Brett Favre has retired. And it's like, you know what? Let's just say for the sake of argument, Skip, we don't take a quarterback. And he says he's retiring, and he follows through with it. Then what are we going to do? And so they took a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers fell in their lap, as you mentioned. And when Brett Favre said he was retired, they said, okay, good, we're moving on. And then right before camp, he says, I'm coming back, I want the job back. And it's like, nah, we're going to have to find you a partner, bro. It's too late. Aaron hasn't done that. But maybe they're just like, you know what? We're just ready to move on a different direction and get total control of this thing because quarterbacks carry a lot of weight in most organizations. Now, the quarterback didn't carry as much weight in New England as, say, somebody of that caliber would, say, in Pittsburgh or New York or some other place. But Aaron Rodgers carried a lot of weight, but it doesn't seem he has that same amount of push that he once had, Skip.
Hey, they were just horrified when 2 weeks ago Aaron Rodgers said he wants to play into his 40s, and I think that's when they decided we better go get Jordan Love now.
No mercy. Welcome back to Undisputed. According to Adam Schefter, the Bengals will be parting ways with Andy Dalton. Back in March, The Athletic reported that Dalton was not discussed in the Patriots' immediate plans, but since then, the Patriots did not select a quarterback in the draft. So, Shannon, do you expect Belichick to sign Andy Dalton?
I don't know about signing, Skip, but I do expect the representative, Coach Belichick, to reach out to Andy Dalton's representative. I expect they'll kick the tires, and this is why you don't make a move, Skip. You and I both know, okay, if they select a quarterback with the first overall pick, Andy Dalton has $17 million this year. What's the likelihood that he's going to be on that roster with you're going to almost have to guarantee Joe Burrow $40 million. Well, it's not very likely. That's why you don't panic. The same reason no one traded for Cam Newton. I know you got to release him. You just signed Teddy Bridgewater for 3 years, $62 million. So why would I give you a draft pick for something I know you're going to discard? Coach Belichick played his hand correctly. Now, if I'm Andy Dalton, that would be one of my first priorities to try to get there. I know they're going to win. I'll get well coached. Know they're going to put me in the best opportunity to win. Skip, look, to say I can sit here and say, because after covering Coach Belichick for as long as I have no earthly idea what makes this man tick and what he's going to do when it comes to player. Because a player that I think might fit perfectly, he wants nothing to do with it. And a player that I don't think he wants nothing to do with, he embraces with open arms. So, Skip, do I believe that Coach Belichick will look into this? I absolutely do. But I can't give you, with any kind of degree of certainty, says, oh, yeah, Andy Dalton is going to be. I think Andy Dalton is better than anything they have on their team currently. And that's including Steed.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I agree with one point you made. Bill Belichick wants to do nothing conventional. He does not want to be predictable. He doesn't want to go with the flow and do what everybody expects every other coach to do, which would be, correct. You just released Andy Dalton. We'll take him. That seems too easy to me. It seems too predictable, too cut and dried. So my gut feeling is right here, right now, we just heard this breaking news. They will not sign Andy Dalton. I believe that Belichick wants to prove to the world that he has his next Tom Brady via down in the draft. Obviously, Jarrett Stidham was a 4th-round pick as opposed to Brady being a 6th-round pick. But it's Brady-esque to say, I'll take him down in the 4th round, and I'll show you I got a keeper, I got a winner, I got a future Pro Bowler here. Now, back to Andy Dalton. You know, he's a pretty good quarterback. There are those who argue with me. He's a very good quarterback who got stuck on a bad team for the most part, in a bad situation where an owner doesn't want to spend money and it's a mom and pop owner, even though it's from the lineage of the Brown family, the great Paul Brown. So the point is that, yeah, Andy Dalton has not been in the best circumstance, and he's played very well. He has made a Pro Bowl. He has made the playoffs, and he's made me on occasion sit back and say, man, that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. He is Brady-esque in that he plays a lot like Tom Brady, except he's a poor man's, maybe a destitute man's Tom Brady. Yeah. But he is Brady-esque in the way he approaches the game. And remember, he's a great fit for New England because he's a good guy, Andy Dalton. He's a great teammate. He won't make waves. He's very coachable. He's everything that you would want scheme-wise, fit-wise, culture-wise to fit in New England. I get all that. It would seem like just the perfect segue to go in even on the short term and be even a stopgap to get to whatever Trevor Lawrence you want to bring in to hit the jackpot with and get back to the Super Bowl. So I see all that, but it feels too right. It's too right for Belichick to say, yeah, I'll take Andy Dalton. And I kept saying, does he have that one ace up his sleeve that we don't know? Well, this could be the ace where he just said, to your point, I'll play it out. I'll play it cool. I won't take a quarterback. I'll sit right there and I'll pass on Jordan Love. Then I'll sit right there in the 2nd round and I'll pass on Jalen Hurts. And I'll pass 3 times on Jacob Eason in the 3rd round. And I'm good because I'm waiting for them to cut Andy Dalton. And predictably, they did cut Andy Dalton because they have Joe Burrow and they're going onward and upward. God bless them. But to me, Shannon, it feels like stid or bust. It feels like, and I'll give you this, Jarrett Stidham is more talented than Andy Dalton. He's a better athlete than Andy. He has a little bigger arm than Andy. He has a little more sort of big play flair to him. He has, if I can use that pre-draft term, he has a little higher ceiling if he could ever hit it than Andy ever has. Andy hit his ceiling quickly in the NFL. Whatever he had to give you, he gave it to you like that. And under fire, he gives you all he's got, and it's pretty good. But I think Belichick would say, I got a chance to hit the lottery with Stidham more than I would with Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's just play it safe, try to get through the night, try to get to Trevor Siemian or whoever it might be. Or not Trevor Siemian, Trevor Lawrence coming up. Maybe Trevor Siemian, who knows. But so the point is, I'm going to guess a big no on this. Big no on Andy Dalton to Belichick.
Skip, is there anybody more perfect for Boston and Foxborough and New England than Andy Dalton? The red rifle?
No.
The red hair? He'd be perfect. I mean, you can't, Skip, you can't even get more perfect than this. I think that, and plus, Skip, you have to realize Andy Dalton was playing really well until A.J. Green. Because if you think about it now, Andy Dalton has been in a tough division. He had to deal with the Steelers and the Ravens. And we know what they represent. One had Big Ben, one had Flacco, and Flacco was okay, but they've always had suffocating defenses. Now they have Lamar Jackson. So it wasn't very easy for him to win that division, in that division with the Ravens and the Steelers. Because normally, one of those teams were going to win that division. With that being said, Skip, in the absence of A.J. Green, because A.J.'s been nicked the last couple of years, a lot. It's hard to go win without your number one receiver. Now, we know Brady really haven't really had a true number one, so to speak. He had Randy Moss and basically slot receivers, Wes Welker, Amendola, and Julian Edelman. Okay, we get that, Skip. And so to try to say, well, Brady never had that, but Brady's Brady. Brady is different in that matter. Everybody can't work unless you give them great workers around him. Brady seemed to be was able to do a lot more with less. But, Skip, this is where you and I are going to differ. Coach Belichick does not need to win with Stidham. He needs to win a Super Bowl with any quarterback not named Brady. As long as he does that, he feels validated, just like Tom Brady says, I just need to win a Super Bowl with a coach not named Belichick, and I'm made. That's how they're looking at Skip. Yeah, I'm sure. Have a guy on the roster and just go from there. But Coach Belichick just needs to be on that podium, win it with the Super Bowl trophy, and that quarterback isn't Tom Brady. And then people will look at him like, see, I told you it was him. Tom Brady standing up there, if he's next to Bruce Arians, man, that might be the only time, Skip Bayless, Tom Brady really let that hair down and tell you, no, it's not going to happen then. It's going to happen that Monday or Tuesday in the sit down with Jim Gray. That's when he's going to sit back and start to glow, and you're going to see Tom Brady in a light that you've never seen him before.
Okay, you're right. But, hey, what if Bill Belichick could win a Super Bowl with Jarrett Stidham? Would not that be the ultimate touche to Tom Brady? Right? That's it. Yeah, that's the essence.
Skip, what if he won one with Andy Dalton? Man, Andy Dalton, Skip, how you win anything with somebody from the Bengals? I mean, how you do anything, Skip? Come on. You mean to tell me he took Andy Dalton? Everybody been saying Andy Dalton was terrible. Oh, he couldn't even win a playoff game. All the home playoff games he had, he couldn't win one. He's terrible. And Coach Belichick said, watch me. Skip, you know Coach Belichick is the ultimate watch me coach. Watch me. And that's what he's more apt to do something like that. He's good. Skip, he's not, it's 4th and 1, punt the ball. It's kind of like against Peyton Manning. Skip 4th and 1, punt the ball, play defense. Yep. What does Coach Belichick do on his own 25, 30-yard line? He goes for it. So he's going to do things that's unconventional where other coaches like, nah, I'm just going to play it. I'm going to play it by the book. Coach Belichick says, hell, I wrote the book. I'm going to do it my way. And that's what he's going to do, something very unorthodox. But all he has to do is win that Lombardi, and his quarterback isn't Brady, and Coach Belichick is going to fold his arm because Coach Belichick never is the guy that he always believes he's the smartest in the room. Most times than not, he is. He's going to be sitting back there twirling that whistle like, y'all thought I needed Brady. I made Brady. He might come out with a tell-all book, how I made Tom Brady into the GOAT quarterback. He might.
Maybe. So I think you're saying that Belichick will go with Andy Dalton.
Skip, it's hard for me to see a scenario where you don't at least kick the tie. Skip, Andy Dalton or Brian Hoyer. Even if you say, well, I'm giving Stids the first chance to start, even if you frame it to Andy Dalton like that, would you rather have Brian Hoyer or Andy Dalton?
Honestly, that's a close call for me. I have respect. I do have respect for Brian Hoyer, what he's done. He's played in big games also. He hasn't made a Pro Bowl, but he's had more than moments of success. And this is his third go-round with New England, so he definitely knows the system, and he knows sort of Belichick's whims and how you have to sort of manage Belichick much more than Andy Dalton would. So I don't know about this. I think it's already set in concrete to me, and I could be wrong, but it feels set in concrete that he's going to go with Brian Hoyer, might even start him for a few games just to ease Stid into the flow, depending on how they got off the first couple of games. And yet again, Shannon, I'm seeing the cupboard is fairly bare in New England because
it is.
Belichick has done next to nothing in the free agency period. And I thought his draft, by what I expected, was pretty lousy. Maybe he knows a whole lot more about these down-the-line picks than I do, but I'm sorry, I'm not seeing that he hit any home runs in his draft. Mel Kiper did not like his draft for what that's worth, and to me it's worth a lot. So, again, where has he improved his football team? I don't see it.
Hell, Skip, but how far down the line are these trees going to bear fruit? Hell, I'll be starved to death. These guys need to start bearing fruit fairly quickly. It's not like you said, he doesn't have Tom Brady, so if you have a bad game that he can bail you out. So these guys are going to have to play right away, and they're going to have to play well, Skip, because they're going to try to win football games with their defense like they did last year. But I'm taking Andy Dalton 1,500 days over Brian Hoyer. Skip, Brian Hoyer's on what, his 8th, 9th, 10th team? Come on, Skip.
10th.
So almost a third of the teams he's been on.
When you look at it that way.
No mercy.
Welcome back to Undisputed. Charles Barkley was asked to give his list of all-time players, and LeBron came in at number 7 overall, behind MJ, Oscar, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, and Kobe. Barkley said he loves everything about LeBron, but the King wouldn't have wanted anything to do with tougher teams in the past, like the bad boy Pistons. So, Shannon, does he really believe LeBron is number 7, or do you think this is more about bad blood?
I think it's a combination of both, Skip. I believe two things can be true because Charles Barkley has repeatedly said there's nothing LeBron James can do to ever crack his top 5. So with that line of thinking, what else am I supposed to choose? So if LeBron James wins 2 more titles, win another MVP, he still can't crack the top 5? Skip, look, and I know what Charles is talking about, Skip. I believe the decade and the era in which I played was the best. It was the toughest. And although I'm not willing to say that receivers and tight ends couldn't play in that era, I'm saying that some of the things that we see them do would be hazardous to their health. You see, the greatest skill for survival is adaptability. So am I to assume that Charles Barkley, being an undersized power forward, couldn't play in today's NBA because he can't shoot threes? That would be an awful way of thinking. He would just adapt his game. Like other great players, they're willing and able to adapt. Skip, what difference does it make? Why all the bad boy Pistons? The bad boy Pistons did not win the title every single year. What is that? Now, ever since the last dance, now we're making the bad boy Pistons, Skip, to be the 60 Celtics. You notice that, Skip? Now everything is measured through the bad boy Pistons. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Skip, they were a great team, yes, but everybody really played that style of basketball. Skip, the Knicks played that style of basketball. The Miami Heat played that style of basketball. Indiana with the Davis boys and Rick Smith played that style of basketball. Skip, that was the East played football and the West played football like ballet on grass. They were moving the ball. It was up and down. And in the East, where in the West, Skip, you have a game 132 to 138. In the East, it was 85-82. That's what you were getting, Skip. Everybody played that brand of football. The Celtics, even with the great Larry Bird, they were a big physical basketball team, and they played that style. So that wasn't unique to the bad boy Pistons. Now, they took it over the edge, but what Commissioner Stern figured out, people don't really like that brand of basketball. People really like to see points. They want to see up and down. Skip, look at what the ratings did when they took the rules out, where you get the defenseless player and the clutching and the grabbing in the NFL, and you see more points. Ta-da! Ratings took off when they opened the game up and you had no more hand checking, and all of a sudden the games are starting to creep back like they were in the 80s, Skip, when the West was up and down. Ta-da! Skip, nobody liked that brand of basketball. That wasn't basketball, that was football. If you want to watch football, watch it in the fall. But if you want to see basketball, you want to see these athletes be able to move and flow freely, not tackling and clotheslining guys out the sky. But I do not believe, Skip, LeBron James is the seventh best player. Now, I'm not here, look. People criticize me, say LeBron is the GOAT. That's where I stand on that. But I've said that, and I told you, I came on your show, Skip, in 2014. I said, if LeBron wins this title, he GOAT. That was 2014. If he 2016, when they came back for 3-1. I told you I was going to the parade. I asked you, did you want to go? You say you didn't want to go with your boy. But anyway, Skip, this notion that a great player couldn't play in certain eras, Skip, yes, they could. They would adapt. Just like Michael Jordan adapted to how he was going to deal with the bad boy Pistons. He said, this little slender frame ain't going to cut it. I need to put on about 10, 15 pounds, and I need to meet fire with fire. And that's what they were able to do. So there's no question in my mind, at 6'9", 260 today, in today's game, man, LeBron, so imagine, Skip, they weren't calling charges like they do now. Man, LeBron James just bulldozed his way. Of course he could have played. And I disagree with LeBron being seventh, but that's Charles' list. That's not mine.
Okay, back to the statement from Charles that LeBron would have wanted no part of those bad boy Pistons back in the late 80s going into the early 90s. Again, we're talking about putting LeBron back in time in that situation under those football rules against that team that was loaded with tough guys. Mahorn was there, not for the whole run, but for the first of the run.
The first one.
Lambeer was just crazy tough. And James Edwards, he scared me every time he came on the floor. We talked about Dennis Rodman, back-to-back Defensive Players of the Year, 90, 91.
Sally.
And then led the whole NBA in defensive win shares in 92. John Sally, who I know very well, 7 feet and nasty. And then Joe Dumars was making first-team all-defense all through that run. Isaiah would lock you up and get up under you and bulldog you. And Vinnie Johnson would come off the bench and get up in you. And that was their mentality. We're all together, all for one, one for all, and we're going to make you beat us at football rules. And as Charles said, they wanted to hurt you. I mean, literally hurt you, physically knock you out of the game, the way in the old days when you first started playing in the NFL, teams tried to knock quarterbacks out of the game. That was the Pistons' MO. And it was not pretty. Yeah, it was ugly. It was not fun to watch. I was there for all those finals. I sat right there at courtside and watched it. I could reach out and touch the ugliness of it. It was sweaty, ugly, dirty basketball, but they let them get away with it, so they pushed the rules as far as they could push them before the rules got changed. I do believe that with Rodman all over him, who could match him physically in height, strength, and just sheer mental toughness that bordered on dirty basketball nastiness, that LeBron would have had a hard time getting through those guys, and Michael had a hard time getting through them. And I told you earlier, he won one game in the first go-round, then 2, then 3, and then finally swept them and went on to beat Magic's Lakers in his first NBA Finals, and he was off to the races. Okay, back to Charles. Right. I've had my issues with Charles over the years. They're well documented. But the one area I've always agreed with Charles on and applauded Charles for is LeBron James. Because to Charles' credit, he has always been, you could argue harshly, but he's been objective and, dare I say, insightful about LeBron. Has it gotten a little personal? Yes. Has it gotten a little snide, a little petty at times between the two of them? Yes, it has. But I still say Charles, what I love about him, Shannon, is he's never kissed up to LeBron because obviously TNT relies heavily on its NBA package, and LeBron is the ultimate NBA meal ticket and gate attraction for TNT. But Charles doesn't seem to care about that, and I applaud him for that. So he says that he had him 8th, and now he's moved him up to all-time 7th. And I'm Shannon, I'm right where I was. We did this in 2017. The last time we visited this subject was 3 years ago. I haven't changed my list. I've got LeBron 9th all time, and I'll tell you in a moment just why I've got him 9th. But Charles has him now 7th, and Charles, his list is bizarre to me because of 4 players who are not above LeBron on Charles's list, because he's going to honor his forefathers. He is going to pay homage to the greats of yesteryear. So on Charles's list, he's got Oscar Robertson, he's got Bill Russell, he's got Wilt Chamberlain in his top 5. And again, LeBron is 7th. Well, on that means that as I look at Charles' list, he does not have Shaq above LeBron. Well, Shaq's his obviously his teammate on TNT. If I'm Shaq, I'm offended by that. He doesn't have Magic above LeBron, and I'm sorry, Magic was better than LeBron. That's just me, but that's how I feel. He does not have Larry Bird above LeBron. Larry Bird was your favorite player growing up. I think he was a little better all around than LeBron is. And I still believe that Tim Duncan was more valuable than LeBron James as a leader and a winner and a franchise carrier in big games, in NBA Finals championship games. So my list is MJ is obviously first, and that's where Charles and I agree. And then I go Magic, Shaq, Kareem, Tim Duncan. I'll give you Bill Russell next, Kobe, and Bird. Those are my 8 above LeBron at 9. And why Larry Bird above LeBron? They basically played the same position. Larry Bird was not a good passer. He was a great passer. Maybe LeBron's a little better passer than Larry, but maybe just a little. And yet Larry was a much better rebounder, and he was a much deadlier clutch shooter, mid-range jump shooter, 90% free throw shooter, team leader, big game, big play maker, steal the ball on defense like crazy, roam and steal. So to me, he, again, if I had to have somebody on my team, if I wanted to build around, I'm going to build around Larry Bird slightly before I'm going to build around LeBron James. That's just me. And I'm not changing from 2017. I still have LeBron 9th on my list.
Well, both of y'all lists, your and Charles' list are trash, but that's y'all's list, and so y'all keep them in your back pocket like an old bill. Skip, the thing is about Larry had more rebounds because he normally guarded guys that were in the post. LeBron spends so much of his time on the perimeter, and still for him to spend as much time as he does on the perimeter and average 7 rebounds a game, that's a huge undertaking. Because you remember, Skip, they put Larry on the worst offensive player because they needed to save him. It wasn't like he was going out there holding, guarding Jordan, guarding Dominique and all those the top scorers. They needed those legs. They needed him to be able to score. So he normally played the worst offense. He would, sometimes guard Tree Rollins or the least likely to punish them scoring the basketball. So he was around the rim. That's why he was a 24, 10, and 6 guy. Skip, I believe he might be the second greatest passing forward behind LeBron James. 6 assists would tell you he could pass the basketball, Skip. Like I said, Skip, when you look at him, he couldn't leap out the gym And, he had a few passes where he behind the back, but he was slow. But Skip, people, they need to do a documentary on him. Just him, and let him see how he was lighting people up back in the 80s when he came into the NBA. But Skip, for me, I think with LeBron's body of work, with that resume, the 3 finals MVPs, the 4 regular season MVPs, the longevity. Now, Skip, I will say this. If LeBron James played in the 80s and the 90s, would he have gone maybe 15 straight years with no injuries? Probably not. Probably not. Because all that yanking and tugging and snatching you out the sky, sooner or later that takes its toll on you. Skip, you remember the Pistons, yeah, they were nasty. They adopted the moniker from the Raiders. Skip, you remember when the Raiders had Lyle Alzado and Matuzak and Otis Sistrunk and all those guys? They were nasty. They would clothesline you. They'd rip your helmet up, do all that crazy stuff. And so the bad boy Pistons adopted that moniker. But also, Karl Malone says, I'm going to stop this. When he put that elbow upside Isaiah's head and opened up a 44-stitch gash, that slowed Isaiah down a little bit. Because like you said, Isaiah, to be 6'1", $175, Isaiah was as nasty as they come. And that's why people hold Isaiah accountable for the walk-off, Skip, because they say, Isaiah, you try to play this little shy bad boy, that little shy image, like, yeah, he speaks softly. Isaiah, you don't fool anybody for 1 second. Everybody knew it was Isaiah, Skip, and that's why they hold him accountable.
True. So I got to backtrack. It sounded like you were suddenly making the case that your childhood hero, Larry Bird, is better than LeBron.
No, you got your mouth up. Skip Bayless. LeBron James is the GOAT. Do you understand that? Big G, big O, big A, big T. G period, O period, A period, T. That's what LeBron is, big GOAT. Now, ain't nobody in front of him. Now, stop asking me that. I be at my... Somebody broke in the house. Skip, I ain't gonna tell you the true story. Somebody broke in the house, put a gun in my hand and said, tell me, who the GOAT? LeBron James. If you say LeBron James one more time, I'm gonna pull this trigger. It's GOAT James. I ain't afraid to die. I'm gonna tell the truth, because a man know I'm telling the truth. I go meet my maker, but I'm gonna tell the truth.
Hey, you know and I know, at that moment of truth, gun to head, you'd say, Michael Jordan? GOAT James, Skip Bayless, you know it. You gonna talk about this man, Jordan,
night, Skip.
You'd say it, you know it, and I know it.
Nope.
That took a different turn than I was expecting. Good to know. I know we will revisit that debate another time.
No mercy.
Dak Prescott took a large step in his production last season, and the Cowboys led the league in yards per game. After they lost Randall Cobb, Travis Frederick, and Jason Witten in the offseason, they did add CeeDee Lamb at number 17 in the draft. So, Shannon, will the Cowboys' offense be better or worse this season?
That's a very dangerous thing to assume that a team is going to pick right up where they left off last year, and I understand. But, Skip, how did they win games last year? It was their offense. Skip said it was their defense that kept letting them down. Jason Garrett not having that defense ready to play. They was, second or third, maybe even fourth in points scored, number one in yards. So their offense, they could produce points. Now, the problem that they have is that they got too one-sided. They would fall behind, abandon the running game, and Dak would have to throw. Skip, I'm looking at it. In 7 of their losses, they scored 10 points or less through the first 3 quarters. That won't get it done. And so this is why I call it, empty calories, because that's what they have. They would be behind by so much, and then you have to throw, get yourself back into the game, only to lose by 10 or 14, like they were doing on a normal occurrence. And Skip Bayless, my quarterback's a warrior. My quarterback, I want Dak, and he'll battle. Yada, yada, yada. No, you were down by 1,700 points, and you got to score to within 1,500, but you still lost by 200. Skip, I don't like to assume that you automatically pick back up, because having covered this game, Skip, everybody starts at the bottom of the mountain. Just like Kansas City can't assume that they're going to start where they left off last year. Everybody starts from the bottom. So with CeeDee Lamb, yeah, they should be better. I mean, in what aspect? Are you going to win the division? No.
Okay, my turn. All I know is the offense had better be better or my team is going to be sunk again. All I know is my team led the National Football League in yards per game. But wait a second, it was 6th in points scored. Well, the object is to score points, and the ultimate object is to win games. They won 8, and they lost 8. 8-8, 8-8, 8-8. That was Jason Garrett's middle name as he was born. His mother christened him old 8-8 Jason because that was his MO his whole time in Dallas. He just kept basically going 8-8. He's a 500 football coach. And I, for one, am glad he's gone. Good guy, too nice of a guy, actually. Glad he's gone. Now, back to this question. I thought the offense last year was terribly overrated because at key times it was just terrible. And you were right about empty calories. I did think, especially in the Green Bay loss at Jerry World, Dak was a warrior. He would not quit. He kept fighting. He also kept fighting at Chicago. It felt like more of a lost cause, but he threw for the most fourth quarter yards of any quarterback all year in Chicago in what was still an ugly loss. But the point was, when it was time to go score touchdowns, this offense couldn't score touchdowns. At New England, it was a huge game, week 12. It was a turning point game. It was a measuring stick game for my football team against Brady and Belichick up there in the cold weather at their place in Foxborough. My team did not score a single touchdown in that game. Then week 16, it's do or die, sink or swim. You got a shot. You can win the division if you beat the Eagles at the Eagles. My team did not score a single touchdown in that game. And then, how about this? At New Orleans, I couldn't defend it. I didn't think Dak played poorly. I thought the defense actually played pretty well, but it was Teddy Bridgewater and the Saints. My team managed to score 1 touchdown and lost 12-10. And then at the Jets, my team couldn't score a touchdown for 3 quarters. Of course, Amari tapped out, said, I got a little thing with my leg, and I don't think I can play the rest of the game. He had 1 catch. Okay. And again, they lost 24-22 ultimately. Dak battled back, but it was too little too late. And then at Chicago, they scored 1 touchdown the first 3 quarters. That won't get it done. They got embarrassed. And then against Green Bay and Buffalo at home, Buffalo on Thanksgiving, they got humiliated because they scored only 1 touchdown in the first 3 quarters. Well, okay, so I just gave you all the huge negatives, yet they led the league in yards per game. Something was really wrong with the offense. And I keep telling you, the reason I can't defend Dak in his negotiation, which is still stalemated, still at an impasse, still going south instead of north, he didn't make enough key plays like he had done the previous 3 years, where he would decide the game by making the play at the moment, legs or arm. Last year, that didn't happen. And yet last year, well, let's just look at what was there last year that's not here this year. Travis Frederick's a perennial Pro Bowler. He tried to play last year, off his autoimmune deficiency and syndrome. He didn't like the way he played. He thought he was below average. He couldn't take it, so he quit. And not quit, he just retired. And God bless him. I appreciate that. Then Jason Witten last year was the 3rd best receiver in catches on the team. He's obviously now somehow a Las Vegas Raider. Figure that. And Randall Cobb was the 4th best receiver on the team. And Randall Cobb signed with the Houston Texans, and they overpaid him. They gave him $9 million a year because they had just given away DeAndre Hopkins. But he's gone. So those are 3, you could argue, big losses. So Amari last year obviously caught 52 balls at home, 27 on the road. Well, something's really wrong with that, but you know what that got him? That got him a new $100 million contract. No road warrior. He was more of a road weenie. And that got him $100 million because they didn't have a way out. They needed Amari that badly. But thank you, football gods, CeeDee Lamb fell into our laps at number 17. So can CeeDee change the world? Yeah, I believe it. I told you going in. I'm not second guessing. I first guessed. I told you he's the best receiver in the draft. He's a number one. Jerry Jeudy will prove to be a number 2 slot receiver type. Still very good. I don't condemn John Elway for taking him. CeeDee is a number 1. He's an alpha. He's a difference maker. He's DeAndre Hopkins, where you just have a hard time guarding him and keeping him from snatching footballs out of the air. As one scout said, he can just catch the crap out of the football. Well, I think he will, and I think he'll serve double-edged sword purpose for the Dallas Cowboys in that he'll be catching big balls on 3rd and 8, but he'll also be inspiring Amari to compete with him and live up to him, especially on the road. So do I think that the passing attack can be more consistent on big downs? Yes, I do. Which brings me to Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, I kept saying he looks like he's running in Cabo sand.
Yeah.
He got paid, and then he didn't earn his money. He dropped to 4th in the league in rushing, which is not all bad, 85 yards a game, but it wasn't Zeke. It wasn't who I'd come to expect. And the killer stat I told you was on 1st down, when he had the 2nd most carries in the whole National Football League on 1st down. And guess what? In yards per carry on 1st down, he ranked 18th. Do the math. 2nd most carries, yards per carry on 1st down, 18th. Well, that means he was going for 1 yard, 0 yards, -1, 2 yards, 0 yards, -2. That's how it kept going. And all of a sudden, Dak is in 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11, 2nd and 8. It's hard. You can't win that way. You put yourself so far behind the chains that ultimately you're going to fail in the NFL and you're going to go 8-8, which is what they went. So have they improved their defense some through the draft and free agency? Yes, they have. I expect it to be 20% better than last year when it was pretty lousy. But in the end, this team will go as far as Dak's offense carries it, with Mike McCarthy giving it a new feel, new input, a new sort of direction. And obviously he coached Joe Montana and Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. So I'm hoping he'll bring a new, just a new touch to it, with Kellen Moore still calling the plays. But the game plans will be Mike McCarthy's. So my point is, it better be better than it was last year. And I do think CeeDee will make the big difference to put it over the top, to be a playoff, big play, big game offense as opposed to last year.
Well, what we saw, Skip, is that it worked really well. This team worked really well when they played through the running game. Well, they fell behind by so many, so often, so quickly, they neutralized the run game. Skip, I think the most important down as far as creativity is the 1st down, because the Cowboys just hand the ball to Zeke and run into the line. There was no creativity. Look at Kyle Shanahan and the creativity that he creates on 1st down, running the football. He doesn't just toss the ball to those running backs or just hand it to them. He gets creative with it. Look at the Kansas City. They get creative. Skip, so the question I have for you, is Zeke going to be better this year than he was last year? Because you said he wasn't very good. Well, if he's better this year, they should be better. Is Amari Cooper going to be better? See, for me, Skip, when I look at this offense, they don't need to be better. They need to be more efficient. Because, see, what happened doesn't do you any good, Skip, to go up and down the field, is that when you need a touchdown, you can't get it. You need to get in field goal position, you turn the ball over on down. So if you're more efficient, you're plenty good as is. The question is, when you need it, that's the mark of any great offense or any great defense. Kansas City proved when they needed scores late in the ball game, Skip, they came from behind all 3 playoff games by at least 10 points. And they ended up winning the game by at least 10 points. When you need a play, can you go make it? The Cowboys, yes, they led the league in yards, but when they needed one play, they couldn't make it. Defense, when you need a stop, no matter how great you are, can you get off the field on 3rd down? Can you get a turn, make them turn the ball over on downs when you need to? So that's going to be the telltale, Skip. Dak is unhappy. He's not participating in virtual OTAs. probably won't participate in virtual or real training community camp. So it's going to be, Skip, that there's a lot going on right now, Skip.
Okay, last point, the offensive line. Obviously, I've loved it in the past. I've thought it was the best offensive line. Now, as Ty Smith ages and gets a little beaten up, I still believe it can be top 5. No, Travis Frederick, but that Connor McGovern, that was their second-round pick last year, played some center, a lot of center, at Penn State. I think he can fill the gap. I think he can be okay. I think that, obviously, with Zach Martin, Lyle Collins, they still have enough Pro Bowl firepower up front. They can be top 5. And if they can play at a higher level, a more inspired level under McCarthy than they played last year when they were often deadheaded and they got defeated at the point of attack too many times in too many key plays. If they can rise up to their level and play up to their potential that they still have, this team will be, it could challenge it. It could be the best offense in pro football if it maxed out on every level.
Well, I think the biggest key for your offensive line, Skip, is the health of Ty Smith back and the needs of Zach Martin, because it seems every year at some point in time, we start seeing these guys listed on the injury report. Ty Smith with his back, we know it's caused him to miss some time, and Zach Martin with that knee. He's missed some time with that knee. So that's going to be the telltale. These other guys are young enough, but Zach Martin and Tyron Smith, they've been through some battles, Skip. You know, when you block as much as they have, because they've had 3 times, they've led the league in rushing. With DeMarco Murray, Zeke's led the league in rushing twice, and he was leading in yards per game the year he was suspended. So they've got some miles on them, Skip, but it's going to be very important for them is to be able to hold up, because you prime. When I got a new coach, you got CeeDee Lamb, Skip, you're prime. I mean, that window's not going to stay open forever, Skip. At some point in time, no matter how nice the breeze is, you got to close the window. Ready to say, boy, we going to bed, close that window. So at some point in time, that window's going to close, Skip, now.
No mercy. So it's always been rumored that Michael Jordan kept Isaiah Thomas off the 92 Dream Team because of their battles in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Longtime NBA exec Rod Thorne, who helped construct the team, said that was not the case. He said that nothing about Isaiah ever came up in conversations with MJ, period. So Shannon, do you believe this?
Hell no. Like Miss Melody said, I ain't buying it. Skip, if he says yes, that makes Rod Thorne looks bad. That makes Michael Jordan looks even worse. So you go down swinging and say, nah, that didn't happen. Skip, now Jack McCallum, you probably know who he is. He wrote the book Dream Team. Thorne said, he won't say, but made it clear no one would have been on that team if Jordan didn't want them on that team. Isaiah, and I tell people this, Skip, my grandmother used to say, boy, be careful of the toes you step on today. They might be on the foot, connected to the leg that leads to the butt you got to kiss tomorrow. Skip, you remember what happened in the 85 All-Star game? They stalled Jordan out. Who did Jordan believe led that? One, Isaiah Thomas. Okay, you stalled him out as a rookie. You didn't shake his hand. Now, Skip, they selected 10 of the 12 members September after Isaiah pulled what he pulled 4 months earlier. Skip, this is what Magic Johnson and Isaiah are very good friends. Skip, they were great friends. Magic Johnson said Isaiah killed his own chances when it came to the Olympics. Nobody wanted to play with him on the team. Skip, I mean, how many different ways must somebody say we didn't want Isaiah? Skip, you do realize Isaiah was Finals MVP in 1990. He had made the All-Star every single year up until that point. And you mean to tell me Isaiah Thomas is not one of the 12 best players? If you go in point guard, first point guard, you call Magic, hey, Magic, we putting the Dream Team together. That's what we're going to allow professional basketball players to play in the Olympics. You in? Oh, yeah, I'm good. Sign me up. The next call for the point guard should have been Isaiah Thomas. Man, stop this foolishness. Isaiah wasn't good enough. Bull jive. Isaiah was a top player back then, Skip Bayless. So Finals MVP means nothing.
Yeah. Okay. You're saying Rod Thorn is lying publicly about what Michael told him, and I'm saying you're wrong about this. I'm saying Rod Thorn, who drafted Michael Jordan, is telling the absolute truth about this, and that Jordan should be let off the hook on this, because what became historical fact is actually historical fiction. I do not believe that Michael had to say one word about this, because to one of your points, I believe nobody wanted Isaiah on this team. And now to your basketball point, when they first announced the first 10 on the team in September of 1991, they chose as their point guards the first 10 players, Magic number 1, and this guy in Utah named John Stockton as his backup. John Stockton is the all-time assist leader and played pretty dogged defense, as I remember. He would really get up in you and make it tough on you. So I don't have a problem with taking John Stockton as the backup pure point guard to Magic on a 10-man dream team. Then 6 months later, they had 2 more spots. What's that? Say it again.
John Stockton was not a better player than Isaiah. Yes, he's the all-time skip. He played 19 years, 20 years.
Better fit. Listen, Isaiah could not distribute the way John Stockton could. He was a wizard with the basketball, and they were going to go try to dominate the world in basketball, which they obviously did. So as a pure point guard backup, yeah, I'll take John Stockton. And by the way, it's not like Isaiah was 6'5". He was 6 feet-ish, 6'1"-ish maybe. Stockton was 6 feet, 6'1". I think they're about the same size. I don't think so. Not much. Maybe an inch, maybe. I'm not even sure about that. So the point is that 6 months later, they announced that they picked Clyde Drexler over Isaiah Thomas as the 11th man, and then they had to have one. They wanted to have one college player, so they took Christian Laettner over Shaq at LSU. You could debate that all day long. Christian obviously had a better college resume than Shaq did, but anyway, they wanted one college kid, so they took Laettner. And yet, John Stockton broke his leg. It healed fairly quickly, but guess what they announced? That the alternate for point guard was not Isaiah Thomas, it was Joe Dumars. What? So they're saying had in the pecking order behind John Stockton, they had Joe Dumars before they had Isaiah Thomas. Wow, okay. And then Jackie McMullen wrote her Dream Team book, and this is where it all started, because she quoted Michael Jordan in her book as just reportedly telling Rod Thorn, Rod, I won't play on this team if Isaiah Thomas is on it. So that's when it started. Yet Jackie helped Magic and Bird write their book When the Game Was Ours years later. And in that book is the quote that you just referred to. Magic said, Isaiah killed his own chances when it came to the Olympics. Nobody on that team wanted to play with Isaiah. So that Jackie wrote that quote, obviously, but it was from Magic for the sort of as told to book that Magic and Bird did with Jackie. Okay, so that quote alone right there should just absolutely obliterate this notion that Michael was the one who said no. It sounds like everybody was saying no to Isaiah, because you said earlier in the show, he was the smiling assassin. He had that great smile. I love Isaiah. I get along great with him. I love having him on the show.
I do too.
But he is that smiling assassin, man. He's got the greatest smile ever, but he grew up in
the whole time.
South side of Chicago.
West side of Chicago.
Yep. And he is west side. He was west side. You're right. And
west side, straight west.
He was tough. He was as tough as they came. Yep.
Isaiah, Skip, he's smiling and knifing you at the same time. That's how he was. Skip, it wasn't, hold on. I thought it was about we taking the best players. I thought the Olympic team, you said we sending our best. It doesn't like, okay, this guy can long jump 30 feet, but because he don't get along with the other members that's going to be on the team, we not taking it. Isaiah Thomas was better at that time than John Stockton. And the mere fact that they was going to put Joe Dumars, and I ain't got nothing against Joe, because Joe was playing Skip, Joe Dumars was not a better player than Isaiah Thomas. No way, no how, never, ever, ever. John Stockton was not better than Isaiah Thomas. Skip, they make it seem like Isaiah was going to have to go. Skip, point guard. Okay, you come in, distribute the ball, knock down shots. Nobody is going to say from 84, I think John Stockton came in 84, 85. He might have came in, no, he came in, they came in together. He might have came in with Michael, I think, 84, 85. From the time, because Isaiah came in, he got drafted 81. So when Isaiah got there, until they picked this dream team, John Stockton was not better than Isaiah Thomas. Skip, I'm sorry. John Stockton had a hell of a career. He's a hell of a player. But no way, no how was he better than Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah should have been on that team. Now, Skip, he did some things. Now, you start, and I guess that was the thing, what you did, Skip. When you were a rookie, they didn't pass you the ball in the All-Star game. I ain't all for that. I get it. But Isaiah did some things that rub people the wrong way. Hell, Skip, there are a lot of people that do things that rub people the wrong way. In NFL or baseball. But Skip, if the guy's good enough, put the guy on the team. They let personal feelings get involved in this. And it kept Isaiah off the team. Because, Skip, you remember in 80, they boycotted. Isaiah he would have been on that Olympic team. But they boycotted because of Russia invaded Afghanistan, and Carter didn't send the Olympians to, actually, it was held in Moscow, if I'm not mistaken. So they didn't go.
Mm-hmm. It was.
So for me, Skip, it was a travesty that Isaiah Thomas did not make the Olympic team. He should have been on it, Skip, because I do feel he's one of the 11 best NBA players in the NBA at that time. But, Skip, all it does is it peels a scab off a wound for Isaiah. I don't know who brought it up, and I don't know why it keeps coming up, but, Skip, we can't go back in time. We can't go back and have Russia not invade Afghanistan so Carter will send those troops so Isaiah gets an opportunity to play in the Olympics. We can't go back and undo what happened in 92. So, Skip, I don't really know what to tell him, Skip. It's over. I know it hurts because, like he said, Skip, his resume is impeccable. He was most outstanding player in an NCAA tournament, Skip. He won finals. He was rookie. So, Skip, his resume is impeccable. That's the only thing missing. And unfortunately, you're not going to be able to add it to your resume.
Isaiah Thomas was maybe the first of what I call the two guard masquerading as the point guard that we have so in abundance today. Everywhere you look, there's a scoring point guard who is shoot first. And Isaiah was more shoot first than point guard. And he was really good at both, but he was not as good a passer as John Stockton. They wanted a passer, a backup distributor, because it's not like they didn't have two guards, starting with the ultimate two guard, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. So they did not need Isaiah. He wasn't the best fit for that team. It was obviously Stockton backing up Magic at point guard, and I would have done that in a heartbeat.
And Skip, you remember, they basically took Larry Bird because Bird back was so bad, they just basically took Bird as a ceremonial. Yep. Bird would play like 3-4 minutes, and then he was laid on the floor on towels. So it was basically like...
Correct.
They knew Bird was on his last legs. But, Skip, Isaiah led the league in assists. Skip, there were games Isaiah had 25, 24 assists in the game. Dropped 40 and 17, 38 and 19. Skip, and here's another. People don't realize because all they do is they see the terrible job he did coaching at the Knicks. They see the building the Knicks and he giving out James Dolan money left and right and guys can't play dead in a horror movie. They see that Isaiah. But you know Isaiah was a hell of a ball player.
Oh, he was. He just wasn't a better passer than the guy who is the all-time assist leader in the history of pro basketball. That's all. Skip.
All I'm saying is, Skip, let me ask you a question. If you collect cans for 12 years, I collect cans for 19 years. Don't you think I'm going to have at the end of my 19 years, I'm going to have more cans than you collected in your 12? Stop this notion, Skip Bayless. You know Isaiah was better than John Stockton, especially at that time.
Yes, but my cans are Diet Mountain Dew cans, which are more valuable than your cans.
Now, I got aluminum. They recycle aluminum. They don't do anything. You got 10 cans.
No mercy.
So get this, guys. Brett Favre believes Aaron Rodgers will end up finishing his career outside of Green Bay. Favre said the Packers burned the bridge to Rodgers when they traded up to draft quarterback Jordan Love in the first round. So, Skip, is Favre right about all of this?
Yes, he's right, but he's upside down in how he's looking at it because he doesn't understand this is what the Packers wanted from the start. But before I quickly explain that, allow me to say that all of us out there watching this show, all of us here on Undisputed, we've all seen things over the last couple of months we've never seen in our lives. And all of a sudden, this also qualifies because I never thought I would hear Brett Favre speaking for Aaron Rodgers. For the longest, he wouldn't even speak to Aaron Rodgers or vice versa. And all of a sudden, Brett Favre is Aaron's big brother. He's his PR director, his confidant, his spokesman. Well, what is happening? Day is night, night is day. It's bizarro world. And Brett Favre has gone mad. Brett and Aaron have both gone mad because they're suddenly blood brothers, and I never saw that coming. But because Brett has now gotten so close to Aaron that he's speaking for him after speaking to him, that he's lost objectivity on what is actually transpiring here. Yes, the bridge is burned because the Packers lit the match. They intentionally poured the gasoline underneath the bridge and set it on fire because they want out from under Aaron Rodgers. Brett Favre is painting this as if the Packers screwed up. They made a huge mistake here. They stumbled into something that is going to turn on them and explode in their face. Nope. They did all this on purpose because they're seeing what I've been trying to tell Shannon for 3 years. Aaron Rodgers statistically is in decline. As Bob McGinn, who covered the Packers for almost 40 years and gives grades to the quarterbacks every year, keeps saying, Aaron had 2 pedestrian years the last 2 years. Gave him C+ for those 2 years. And on top of that, he's a diva. He is a blame deflecting finger pointer, and he's hard to live with. And Matt LaFleur finally just said, I've seen enough. I've had enough of his act, as McGinn wrote yesterday. So now Brett Favre isn't seeing the forest for the trees that are all on fire right now because in the end, they want to move on from Aaron. They're going to try to move on from him next year by handing the ball more to A.J. Dillon, who they took in the second round out of Boston College, 250 pounds, ran 4.5 at the combine, just a straight-ahead Derrick Henry of a back. They're going to try to pound the rock next year and take the ball more and more out of Aaron's hands as they wait for a year or two to see if Jordan Love is as great as they think. And as soon as they have their opening, now they're hoping that Aaron Rodgers does demand a trade. I think they would love to be able to trade out from under the money that Aaron is making. And I think sooner than later, Aaron Rodgers will be somebody else's quarterback. And then we'll see who was right about this, Packers or Aaron or Brett on this, because in the end, the Packers want out from under Aaron.
Skip Favre said, I talked to Rodgers. I'm not going to talk about what all we talked about, but he was, let's just say, surprised they went in that direction. Okay, you talked to Aaron, and now you're coming out, Skip, and you saying all this, the bridge has been burned. Who said that? What are you talking about bridges? Skip, how you going to have a conversation with someone and just say, I'm not going to say what we talked about, but there was like bridges being burned. He was kind of like surprised that this happened. Everybody's going to automatically assume. Now, I wouldn't be surprised at some point if the general manager and the head coach and Brett sit down. Skip, I remember I was growing up and my aunts were still living at home and my grandfather, and they would always be upset because either they couldn't go somewhere or he told them if they did go, they had to be home at a certain time. And my grandfather would come in for working in the fields, and he'd come in and everybody's sitting on the couch with their mouth stuck out. And my grandfather would simply turn to all of them and say, "You got something on your mind you want on your ass?" Well, I don't think they can whip Aaron Rodgers like my grandfather would have done had they got out of line. But I do believe they're going to have a conversation, Skip. And I believe we're going to talk about this a little later. And I believe the conversation is going to get very, very uncomfortable. Because like you said, Aaron Rodgers has probably rubbed a lot of people in the media the wrong way. And I can assure you he's rubbed some people in the Packers the wrong way. Because Skip, he strikes me as a guy, and I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I apologize. The guy that has power, he's not afraid to use it and say certain things that, as a person that was a good player and that got certain privileges that you never abuse. And so I'm looking at Aaron as like, y'all think y'all can do this to me? It's kind of like Lonzo in Training Day. You think you the police? I'm the police. I run this piece. And they say, no, you don't, Aaron. You don't run this piece anymore. You ran this piece. Now we're in charge here. We're taking it back. Skip, boy, this is a blow here. This is a blow because they traded up. Skip, it was one thing. He was already going to be upset that you took a quarterback. But the mere fact that you moved up, you gave up assets that you possibly could have used in order to help this team now. For a player that's not going to help us now, that's going to help us down the road, Aaron Rodgers like, well, how in the hell does that help me down the road? I'm in the car right now. I'll worry about down the road when I get down the road. I'm in the car right now trying to get down the road. And y'all do this, Skip, they're going to have a conversation. I don't care. They're like, nah, everything's cool. Because remember, Skip, Aaron called Jordan Love and he was all yada yada. I said, bull jive. Bull jive. No quarterback's done. Nope. That's not how they wired, Skip. They're too competitive, and they realize, Skip, Tom Brady did everything he possibly could, Skip. That's why he fought so hard for that suspension. It wasn't the fact that he was going, yeah, he wanted to clear his name, Skip. How did he get the job? Someone presented him that opportunity, and he never left the field. He got, Wally pipped somebody, and he didn't want to get Wally pipped. So, like, And Aaron Rodgers knew. Brett Favre is speaking from experience. Aaron Rodgers is talking to someone that can relate to what he's going through. And I can assure you, when he's having these conversations, Skip, he didn't expect Brett to go on Rich Eisen and just talk about, well, I talked to. He's supposed to say, well, look, when it happened to me, this is how you do it, Skip. Man, when it happened to me, let me tell you what I was thinking. The bridges were burned. I'd have never mentioned I talked to Aaron. The bridges were burned. I was hurt because Aaron wasn't going to be able to help us in the next 2 to 3 years. He was going to be able to help them down the road. Okay, I get it. You want to build down the road, but how does that help me right now? But when you say I talked to Aaron and you talk about just my gut feeling, man, that's Aaron talking through you. You happen to be a ventriloquist. That's Aaron Rodgers. And you speaking for Aaron Rodgers. Because I believe everything that Brett said, Skip, that's what Aaron told him.
Okay, I got to backtrack. You just dared to say that the reason Tom Brady fought so hard in court over Deflategate was to protect his job? No.
I said he wanted to protect his legacy, but quarterback, Skip, if you think about this, Peyton Manning even kneel downs. Peyton Manning did not want to give quarterbacks, don't want to give other quarterbacks an opportunity because they're like, well, hold on. He did pretty good. And he doing pretty good for $5 million. Well, I want to pay that guy $25 million. So you want to limit the opportunities that someone have to see your replacement. You want him to keep him. I don't know. Is he ready? No, Skip. Of course he wants to defend because they got this asterisk by his name. Tom Brady allegedly cheated. And some people believe he did. Some people believe he didn't. I don't care anything about that. Tom Brady was supposed to. You go down swinging. But I'm just saying, Skip, Tom Brady understood that there was a great chance these guys, Skip, and remember, it was what Coach Belichick saw in Tom Brady's absence that started the wheels rolling with Jimmy G. That was the start of it.
But the reason Brady fought so hard and so long, first in district court, then appeals court, was because his coach threw him under the bus first. And then it appeared to Tom and his inner circle that it appeared the NFL was willing to sacrifice Brady's legacy and reputation to punish the Patriots for all of their rules breaking that had come before. Yeah. That once and for all, they wanted to, for Spygate and any number of other potential violations of rules, all the way back to the first two Super Bowl walkthroughs that some accused them of taping illegally, that they wanted to get the Patriots once and for all. And Brady said, not on my watch. And it looked like Tom at 36 going on 37 at that point was nearing the end. And it felt like the NFL was saying, well, it's okay. He's already done enough. We can throw him under our bus too. And Brady would have none of it, because all he ever said was, yes, I asked the ball boys to deflate the footballs to the lower end of regulation on the inflation. So, again, I don't think it had anything to do with getting Wally pipped and losing his job.
Skip, I believe that Brady believes that he did nothing wrong. And if you believe you've done nothing wrong and your only recourse is to go to court and fight it, that's what you should do. That's what the law of the land. That's even if you're in a regular. Forget you play football. He believes he didn't do anything wrong. But I said this. Oh, Coach Belichick threw him slam up on the bus. Not only did he throw him under the bus, Coach Belichick was driving the bus and was looking out and open the door like the whole school buses, Skip. You know, the handle up there, they open the door and you hop on. Coach Belichick open the door and look so y'all can see him. Because ain't nobody, hold on. All you had to do is like, look, guys, we play by the rules, we inflate. He's like, I don't know anything about no balls. Go ask Brady. Go ask Tommy. Go ask Tommy.
Quarterback.
The last thing, you're supposed to shield your players, not expose them. But Skip, I just think the thing is that Aaron Rodgers is starting to see the writing on the wall. Is that when you move, Skip? What do you think Alex Smith thought in Kansas City, Skip? They moved up 17 spots. Okay, Green Bay didn't move up 17 spots. They moved up 4. But they moved up. If you move up, Skip, you really want that person. That's what that tells me. You really want that person. Skip, it's kind of like, here's the relationship one for you. I'm going to get married in 2021. Say I'm going to get married in August of 2021. But you know what? This is the right one. I'm going to move that thing up. This thing going to happen Labor Day 2020. You really want to get married? Well, you zoom up the draft board to take Jordan Love. When Aaron Rodgers was out there in Malibu, he probably grabbed Danica by the hand. Danica, let's go for a walk. I can't watch anymore. And threw the TV out the window and just started walking down the beach.
Agreed. Bridge burning because they set it on fire.
Whew, at least they're living in Malibu. That part is the only good thing right now for Aaron Rodgers, hanging out with Danica. Thank you for the relationship advice. No mercy. According to Adam Schefter, the Bengals will be parting ways with Andy Dalton. Back in March, The Athletic reported that Dalton was not discussed in the Patriots' immediate plans. Since then, however, the Patriots did not select a quarterback in the draft. So, Skip, I start with you. Do you expect Belichick to sign Andy Dalton?
I'm just going to hazard a guess on this because I do not know Bill Belichick. I just closely observe Bill Belichick. My guess is no, he will not. I'm guessing that because of Belichick's track record of being wildly unpredictable. He loves to do whatever nobody is expecting him to do. He does love to shock the world. And it would be shocking to me in a conventional way if he did what everybody sort of expects him to do now, which is to sign the poor man's Tom Brady. Andy Dalton's pretty good. A lot of people have argued with me over the years. He's very good. He did make 3 Pro Bowls. It was a while back, 2011, 2014, 2016. He made the Pro Bowl. As a starter, he's 70-61 with 2 ties. Not bad. And yet, from 2012 to 2015, I know we're going back a ways, over those 4 years, he had the 4th most wins in pro football. In that span, Brady had 48, Peyton and Russell Wilson had 46, and he had 41. So he's won a whole bunch of games. And yet he made the playoffs 4 times, and he didn't win a playoff game. But he has played in 4 wild card games. But in those 4 games, he has 1 touchdown to 6 interceptions. So he's Brady-esque in his approach to the game. He's sort of a dressed up, if you will, game manager who did make 3 Pro Bowls. But when it came time to win playoff games, he wasn't very good. And I believe Belichick views him as nothing more than a poor man's Brady. Would he be a perfect fit for them? Yes, he would. He's a good guy. He's a great teammate. He would be a joy to work with for Belichick and the coaching staff because he ain't making no waves. Whatever Belichick said, he would do. He would defend Belichick the way Brady always did in the locker room. He would be a nice leader for the team, but he ain't Brady either. He doesn't have that it factor, that charisma, that thing that Brady always did that was so valuable to Belichick, especially in big playoff games. It's not Andy Dalton. So I believe that Belichick wants to really shock the world and prove his genius by saying, watch what I can do with a 4th-round pick that nobody loved, Jared Stidham, that he now calls Stid. I believe he wants to go forward with Stid at quarterback because that would be an achievement. If he could make the playoffs next year after a below-average draft and doing next to nothing in free agency while he had a mass exodus during free agency of Patriots to other teams, if he could make the playoffs with Stid in his first year as a starter next year, that's how you polish your genius. That's how you say, look, I was really everything, not Brady. It was me. So to me, Andy Dalton gets you nowhere, and I'm just going to guess no on Andy Dalton.
Skip, your point about Andy Dalton, and you talk about the playoffs, that he had gone to 4 playoff games. Andy Dalton played well enough to get you to the playoffs, but he never played well enough in the playoffs to actually win you a game. And Skip, you mentioned that time frame. That's when A.J. Green was at his apex. A.J. Green, in many circles, was thought of as one of the best 2 or 3 receivers in all of football. And then these nagging injuries start to take effect. And then all of a sudden, Andy Dalton numbers started to come down when you don't have your number 1 receiver on Sunday on a regular basis. You know, Skip, when you look at Coach Belichick, and I agree 100% with what you said, he's very unorthodox. He's willing to take guys. You see what I did? I took Kyle Van Noy. They said he was a bust in Detroit. Look what I got out of it. I had Jamie Collins. He wanted a big payday. He goes to Cleveland. He can't do anything. Look at me. I bring him back here. So he's always doing that. He did that with Jason McCourty, who was in Tennessee. He gets him, wins the Super Bowl. So he's that type of guy, which would strike me, Skip, Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton can't win no playoff game. Andy Dalton can't win anything. Yeah, he was in Cincinnati, yada, yada. But Coach Belichick's like, I take Andy Dalton, win a playoff game. Nobody thought he could do that. See, Coach Belichick, Skip, he still believes he can take grapes, he can take water and make wine. Coach Belichick thinks that. Skip, the great ones always think, I can do it. In the 5 heartbeat, Eddie Kane, he swore he could say he was down and out on the thing, drug bad, Skip, but he believed he could still say. Coach Belichick still believes, no matter the quarterback, he can take water and make wine. He believes that, just like Tom Brady. Tom Brady going to be 60 years old, Skip, and they're going to say, you know what? Tommy said, I still believe I can sling it. I think if you can protect me long enough, Skip, I still believe I can go throw a touchdown or 2, even at the ripe old age of 60. That's just the way they're wired, Skip. And Coach, now, although I like the fit because I think Andy Dalton is a good quarterback. I didn't say great, Skip. I said good. And somehow, guys seem to get in New England's system and they play better than they ever played in somebody else's system. Now, Randy Moss, we know what Randy was. He just didn't want to be in Oakland because we saw what Randy was in Minnesota. He was an absolute monster. And for whatever reason, he fell out of, he didn't want to be in Oakland anymore. And he just like, nah, I'm done. Get me up out of here. And then when he got to New England, it was a whole different. But for the most part, Skip, they get guys. Look at Hogan. Look at Wes Welker. Look at Amendola. Skip, Amendola was in St. Louis. He was okay, but he wasn't like what he is now, what he was with New England. And so that's the way I look at it, Skip. Would I be surprised? No. Would I be surprised if Andy Dalton went to New England and played well? Nope, because that's what they do. Guys that don't play well in other places or don't always play up to their potential, they get to New England, and for whatever reason, Coach Belichick is able to reach down and pull whatever they got in them that's good, pull it out.
Okay, all I know for a fact, for your sake, you better root for Belichick to sign Andy Dalton, because that's the only hope you have of winning your 5-case of Diet Mountain Dew bet with me that New England will have a better record next year than Tampa Tom will down in Tampa Bay. Because with Andy Dalton, I would give you a shot. I'd give you a shot to go 9-7 maybe. But Jared Stidham, like, I picked 8-8 for the Patriots. I don't think they can even go 8-8 given what's left New England so far and how lousy the draft was. I don't think they could go 8-8 with Jared Stidham. So, again, I got Brady at 12-4. At least Andy Dalton would give you a shot at that bet.
Well, first of all, Skip, I did not know that you guys were lying in the weeds and you were going to finagle Gronk out of New England. Now the NFL might need to suspend, might need to look into this, because Gronk is saying, I had the playbook 4 weeks ago. Well, maybe they're going to say, well, it was around the tampering period, so he was allowed to do that. So that, you know what happened. You know what happened, Skip. He said he had the playbook for 4 weeks. So this thing been in the making for 4 weeks. Sneaky. But anyway, yeah.
Time out. Time out. Wait a second.
What?
Gronk tweeted about this. He tweeted he was making a joke. It was said in jest that he just got the Tampa playbook. Yeah.
Don't Skip.
It was
Skip Bayless. No joke. When have you ever known Gronk to joke like that? You know what happened, Skip Bayless. And what happened was he got back to Gronk. Tampa's like, look, you couldn't have the playbook. We weren't supposed to be talking. That would be a tampering charge, and we don't want to lose draft pick. So just go on there and say you were joking. And that's what he did. You know what happened, Skip Bayless. But notwithstanding, I did not see the Patriots getting Gronk because, like I said, we talked about this. Gronk seemed happy to me, doing WWE, doing stuff with us here at Fox. I thought he was happy. But he said, hey, the itch came back. Well, that rash only bared his head when he was in New England under Coach Belichick's watch. Now they got something special down in that water at Tampa. Then all of a sudden that rash didn't come back because it seems to be he's ready to go play in Tampa now. And I'm happy for him. But Skip, look, I think Andy Dalton would be a better fit than Brian Hoyer. Now, if you want to get Stid, as he called him, the McCourty twins called him Steady, Jared Stidham, if you want to give him first crack at it, no problem. But I do believe that Andy Dalton is better than Brian Hoyer, and no one can convince me otherwise.
Okay, good luck.
No mercy. Did a poll of 20 NBA personnel that included coaches, scouts, and execs about who would be the best young player to build a team around. Luka Dončić ran away with 17 of 20 first-place votes, followed by Zion, who only had 1 first-place vote and 11 for second place. So, Shannon, do you agree with this?
I do. I would build my franchise around Luka Dončić. He just turned 21 2 months ago. Skip, he's 29-99, and he doesn't have the injury risk. He's a better outside shooter. He can get to the paint. He can shoot the 3. Both of those guys I think, can shoot better from the free throw line. But, Skip, I just saw an interview with Zion, and Zion's looked like he picked up some weight during quarantine. And one of the GMs says the injury risk with Zion is always going to be there. It's as simple as that, Skip. And this is the reason why I'm going to take Luka. If you tell me Zion is going to manage his weight for the next 10 years, then I might reconsider. But I just think the risk, because of a man that size and with his explosiveness, I just think the injury risk is too great. So I'm willing to build my team around Luka Dončić. I'm going to get more points. I'm going to get more rebounds. Skip, you talking, he started his career, his first game back. He was 4-4 from the three-point line. Since then, he's 2 for 9 in his last 18 games. He's not the outside shooter that you thought he was or that he, and for me, it comes down simple, Skip. I won't bore you with any more semantics. The injury risk is too great for me to build my team around Zion if Luka and Ja Morant are options.
Okay, you are increasingly harder and harder on Zion about his weight. He's a huge young man. And I saw the same interview, and the whole point of it was Zion was saying he was working harder in quarantine than he did pre-quarantine. And I don't have any problem with his weight. That's just who he's always been. If you want to tell me he's going to be routinely hurt through his NBA career, you got me on that. If you want to say that Luka is more proven at this stage in age, you really got me, because I can't argue with 29, 9, and 9. But they're misleading numbers within 29, 9, and 9. And I'm going to tear them all to pieces. And you dared to say that Luka is a better outside shooter. He's a horrible shooter from 3. Completely, utterly overrated from 3. So far this interrupted season, among 149 qualified three-point shooters in the NBA, Luka, your man, ranks 141st of 149. He's making 31.8% of his three-point shots. And he's not great from the free throw line, 73%. If he's that guy, right, he should be 88 or 90%, especially as a quote-unquote point guard. I love his ability to pass the basketball. It's special. The rest of it, not so much, because when it comes to playing defense, he doesn't. He is a liability on the defensive end. I can't forget that Laker game back on the night of November 1st, when the Lakers said, Kuzma said after the game at Dallas, we were just passing to whoever Luka was covering. And Luka, in defensive win shares per game, ranks 141st. Wow, 141st from 3 and 141st in defensive win shares. That's not very good. And then furthermore, in the fourth quarter, it's odd to me, he routinely disappears. Like in fourth quarter shot attempts, he ranks 45th in the league. LeBron still ranks first, but LeBron's trying to stuff the stat sheet in blowouts.
Oh, my
we get
goodness.
that he's shooting more in the fourth quarter. Yeah, but Luka ranks 45th. He just sort of fades away. And in clutch time points, and that's last 5 minutes with the game, 5 points one way or the other, clutch time points, he's tied for 37th. I haven't seen him make many big shots late in games, and I've seen him miss a number. So you pile all that on top of the fact that the book on him so far is just rough him up. Like a lot of Euro players, just go hard at him. The Lakers go hard at him, yeah, and just sort of literally and figuratively knock him out of the game psychologically. It's almost like bad boy Pistons. Just go after him. And that's not a good early book on a guy that you say you'd build your franchise around. While Zion, yeah, to me, we've only seen 19 games so far. Man, he's a force. Yeah. He's a wrecking ball.
Well, hold on.
He's going to rough you up.
Hold on.
He is unguardable in the paint.
Let me ask you a question, Skip. Why have we only seen him play 19 games? They played almost 60 games. Why have we only seen him 19?
Well, he had a knee scope.
Whoa. Thank you. I got it. Hold on. Now, you told me got injured in college, got injured coming into the the NBA, and you want me to build my franchise around that. So there's a greater percent chance that he's going to be injured again. I'm going with the guy that doesn't get that plays. That's what you tell me. That's what you've been telling me all leading up to the draft.
Okay, but Tua reportedly had 5 surgeries at Alabama. Zion had no surgeries at Duke. He did hurt his knee, but they just let it heal. And then he needed a scope after the NBA preseason, and he came back fairly quickly from it. And again, if you tell me he just hurt every year, you got me. I don't think that's going to happen. And if it doesn't, you're going to be in big trouble because this kid is special. This kid has the charisma and the it factor to lift and lead a team to a championship. I don't see that yet in Luka. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Skip, I'm not arguing whether or not he's special, but as Tua, I believe Tua can change the way he plays. I believe he can get the ball out of his hands quicker. I can believe that he doesn't have to make sure he doesn't take those shots, and he has to learn. Skip, you have to, like in football, you have to learn how to fall. I mean, you just can't fall like you out there in the yard, you know what I'm saying? You have to, because guys are falling on you. And I think those are things. Can Zion change the way he plays? He's an explosive, large man that's going to be required to be explosive on a nightly basis over an extended period of time. How do you change that? That's what he is. That's who he is. So like I said, Skip Bayless, if you tell me, Skip, he's hired one of the best nutritionists in all the world. He has a professional chef that gets his meals and that he's going to drop 30 pounds and he's going to play at this weight for the foreseeable future. Okay, Skip, now you're going to make me rethink this thing. But until I see this over a stretch of time, Luka, Skip, is only going to Skip, the guy's 21. He's running a team. Zion is not running the team. Luka is asked to do way more than Zion is asked to do. And Zion is dependent. He needs Lonzo. He needs someone to get him the ball. Luka, like, I got the ball. I can do what I want to do with it.
Okay, but can Luka shoot it at a high level? I say no. And remember, Zion is a year and 4 months younger than a Luka who had already played 4 years of pro basketball in Europe and came here and has now played 2 more pro basketball years. Well, you're miles ahead in experience from Zion. I think you're going to have to sit back, if we ever get back the NBA, and you're going to sit back on a nightly basis and say, whoa, he's getting better and better and better. You saw it in big games at Duke. He rose and he shone. And on opening night with the world watching, he makes his first 4 three-point shots. He has a sweet stroke. And I think he can get better and better from 3 and from the free throw line.
No mercy. Tom Brady's all-in challenge package that includes tickets to a Bucs game, Brady's game jersey and cleats, along with either dinner or a workout after with Brady, sold at $800,000. This tripled the amount that a double date with Russell Wilson and Sierra went for. So, Shannon, are you surprised that Brady's package sold for 3 times more than Russell Wilson's did?
No, because the first Bucs jersey is going to be included in that, Skip, and you know that's going to be a valuable piece of memorabilia because no one thought Tom Brady was. A lot of people didn't think Tom Brady was going to ever leave New England Patriots, so that's a valuable piece of memorabilia. But I know what somebody would have paid a ticket for. Let old Goat James, my first Laker jersey, and a day with me and old Slavana and Miss Trill Dub. Man, that's a ticket right there. Now, I might be willing to part about $500,000 for the date with Jay-Z and Beyonce. Yeah, that's what I do, Skip Bayless.
Really? Well, time out.
Yeah, well, you and Ernestine ought to get in on it.
A double date? Yeah, nobody wants it. No. They might want to
you
go
and
with
Ernestine
her, but not with me. If I weren't included, they'd go with Ernestine. She would just light up the night. I'm still thinking that I'm stunned that there's a double date with Russ and his famous lady, who's a great entertainer in her own right.
Yes.
And you're telling me that drew only a third of dinner with Brady, who I've always said he comes across like the kind of the goofy dad next door. I don't know that he would light up the night. I don't know that he would be great conversation at the dinner table. I was just a little surprised. It was a little disrespectful to Mr. and Mrs. Russell Wilson.
No, Skip, that jersey alone is probably going to be worth $300,000-$400,000. You know what memorabilia is worth. Babe Ruth's first jersey as a Yankee when he left the Red Sox. Skip, you know what people play for memorabilia. So I'm not surprised at all.
Who has that much money to spend? That is my question. That is it for us today. Thanks for watching Undisputed. We'll be back same time tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Stay safe, everyone. Have a good one.